Hi, Rayanne here from Trailblazer RV. Today I'm going to take you through a new RV orientation on a Northern Spirit 2963BH. We're going to start here at the front of the trailer. This unit is equipped with two 20-pound propane tanks, which we have filled. If you open the first bottle, you'll see the sight glass here on the regulator turns from red to green. What we recommend you do is open both propane bottles at the same time. Currently, the regulator is selected to run off of this tank, making this the supply tank. When this tank runs empty, what's going to happen is the regulator is automatically going to start drawing off of this tank. However, your sight glass is going to turn back to red. At that point, you can switch the regulator over to make this the supply tank, take this tank off, go get it refilled without ever having to turn off the propane supply to your trailer. Behind that, we have your battery. It's a 12-volt battery. Positive wire is always connected, or the positive is always the red wire connected to the positive post. Black wire connects to the negative post. Now this is a flooded battery, meaning there is some maintenance you have to do on it. Behind these two covers is 3 cells in here and 3 cells in here. We recommend you check the fluids in there at least a couple times a year. If the water level's starting to get low, especially if you can see some metal plates starting to stick through, you need to top up those cells with distilled water and then put a good charge on the battery just to do your maintenance there. Unit also has a power jack. There is an on-off switch on here. That's just for the light. It's not turning the jack on and off. And then just retract and extend buttons. Also, if you do ever lose power to the RV, there is a rubber cap here. If you pull that rubber cap off, you'll notice a socket in there. In your front storage compartment, you have been supplied with a crank. If you need to crank, you just throw that on top of the jack and you can crank it up or down as required. Also in that storage compartment, you have a manual slide crank if you ever need to use that. I can show you where it goes once we get to the other side of the trailer. And also your 30 amp power cord. So there's a twist lock. It's going to twist into the plug towards the back of the unit. You're going to turn the ring to tighten it on. And then if you have 30 amp power, this end will plug into wherever that supply is. If you only have 15 amp, we have also supplied an adapter for that as well. The other thing the Northern Spirit comes with is an adapter for your drill that will work on either your power jack or your stab jacks if you would like to use that on your drill. If you don't want to have a drill or don't want to use it that way, stab jacks will use the same crank as the front jack manual override. Same idea, just crank down or crank up as required. It is important to note that these jacks are meant for stabilizing only, not leveling. Do not try to lift the trailer or level the trailer with these jacks, as it can cause damage. If you need to level, do so with blocks between the tire or underneath the tires on the side. This is your fresh tank fill, where you're going to fill your fresh tank. Simple operation there. Recommendations on this is use a freshwater drinking hose rather than a garden hose. That way you're going to eliminate that hosey, rubbery taste in the water. Also a good idea to get a filler nozzle for these. A lot of the times the end of the hose is approximately the same diameter as this hole, and sometimes it makes it harder to keep the hose in there. So rather than having to stand here and hold the hose, if you use the filler nozzle, you can stick that in there and crank down your jacks or whatever else you need to do at that time. Just below that, underneath the trailer, is your fresh tank drain. Now this tank has been left full at the request of the customer picking it up, but if you do want to drain it, just turn that valve upwards and the water will drain out. When you're going to fill the tank, just close that valve up again and the water will stay in there for you. Back here have the power connection I was talking about. We've got our 30 amp end here. Like I said, you push in and then just twist the ring to lock. Below that is your city water connection. If you're hooking up to city water, we recommend again using that same drinking water safe hose, but also using a water pressure regulator. The plumbing system in the RV is rated for only about 50 psi of water pressure, and you'll find a lot of golf courses, mountain campgrounds, that sort of thing, the pressure is substantially higher than that. If you end up hooking up too much pressure up to the water system, you're going to end up with some water leaks. The regulator is also nice just to keep that at a constant pressure rather than any wavering in there. Also here you have a spray port. In your outside kitchen there will be a hose that you can hook up there to use that as a cold water outside shower. This is your black tank flush. It is marked with an orange ring around it rather than the black one. Make sure not to confuse this with your city water. If you hook the water up to here thinking it's the city water, it's going to fill your black tank, eventually overpressure that tank, and it could end up destroying the tank. But after you dump your black tank with the valve open, if you hook your hose up to this connection, preferably not the same hose you're drinking water out of, just in case. It's going to spray out the inside of the tank and clean out any of the solids or toilet paper, anything that may still be stuck on the lining of the tank. We missed the valves on this side. So to dump your black tank, valves are down here. Just remove the cap on the end of the pipe. It's nice to keep that on just in case there is a little bit still in the pipe. It's going to keep it from spilling all over the ground. We have supplied a hose stored in the back bumper there. You're just going to twist that hose on to dump the black tank, pull the black valve, the black handle on the larger valve, let that drain fully, and then like I said, run your black tank flush. Once that's done, shut off your black tank flush, close the valve again. At that point, you can open the smaller valve with the gray handle to dump your galley or your holding water for your sink and that shower, that sort of thing. Pull that handle, let it run. It's gonna clean out anything that might still be left in the pipe and also your sewer hose, just to make the cleaning up of that a little less messy. At that point, you can go ahead and close the valve again and just replace your cap and store your sewer hose back in the bumper. In your outside kitchen, again, this is the hose that will connect onto your spray port. It's a quick connect end, so when you're going to connect it, just pull the little ring on the port on the side of the trailer back, push this end in, pull it forward, and that's going to give you your connection there. Also in the outside kitchen, you have a bar fridge. This only works off 110 volt power, so if you're not plugged in, this fridge won't work, but it will automatically come on when you plug the unit in. Also has a cooktop in here. 2-burner cooktop, needs to be lit with a lighter. Easy operation, just turn to high. Use your lighter to light the stove, adjust from there. And just make sure to turn it all the way to the off position when you're done using it. To do that, you need to push the knob down and turn it back. You wouldn't want propane flowing without something lit there. This one is a permanent connection, so you don't need to worry about connecting and disconnecting the propane lines. Right here we have the furnace vent. Nothing you need to do on this, it's just when it's on the camping side, I like to point it out. If the furnace is on, this will get very hot. So make sure if there's children or anything like that around the RV, that they're aware that this is hot and do not touch it. All right, let's go inside the Northern Spirit. So right here we have the control panel for most of the functions on your trailer. Slide out in and out buttons. awning in and out buttons. Also has your monitor panel for your holding tanks and battery. We are plugged in right now, so as you can see, the battery is reading charged. We filled the fresh tank. Oh, we drained a little bit. So now it's reading 2/3 rather than full, or right on the edge there I see. Black tank is reading empty, and gray tank is reading empty. This panel also has a button for gray tank 2. Where this unit only has one tank on it, that tank will always read empty. It's just a generic panel that they use for everything and happens to have that on there. For your water heater, it's going to work on either electric or gas. To light the gas on the water heater, you just turn the switch on. It's going to be a DSI water heater, so there's no pilot light or anything you're going to need to light. It's going to go ahead and light on its own. You'll turn it on after a couple seconds. You're going to hear some ticking. At that point, the burner will light and the water heater will go. To use it on electric, turn this switch on. On the water heater outside, there's also going to be a second on-off switch in the bottom left-hand corner. Just make sure that switch is also in the on position when you're going to use the water heater on electric. We generally like to leave it off unless we are using it that way, just to eliminate any risk of accidentally firing the water heater up with no water in it, as that will burn out the element. Also controls here for your water pump. When you turn it on, you're going to hear it come on, pressure up the system. Once it's pressured up, it's going to shut off. At that point, you've got water running through the system. Okay. Next, we have your gas range. So this stove also has piezo ignition. So to ignite the burners, go ahead and turn it to the flame. We'll bleed off a little bit of propane on the system. There it goes. And all 3 burners have lit here. If you ever do find, particularly after you've changed the propane bottle, often you will get a little bit of air in the system. In order to bleed that air off of the propane, the stove is the easiest place to do it. Again, just come turn the stove on and keep turning the knob until the burners ignite. That's going to be the fastest way to get propane flowing through the rest of the system. Also in this unit is the oven. This is going to be the only pilot light in your unit. So to ignite the pilot on the oven, you're going to turn the oven knob to the little flame icon. You're going to take your barbecue lighter. While pushing and holding the button in, you're going to heat up the thermocouple back here at the back of the oven. As soon as you see a flame there, you can take the lighter away. Hold the knob there for another 10-15 seconds just to turn or to heat the thermocouple, and then at that point you can select whatever temperature you want on the oven. When you're done using it, simply turn it back to the off position and you're ready to light the next time. The fridge, simple operation on the fridge. There's on-off button. The fridge is currently in the auto mode, meaning if you have electricity available, it's going to run off the electricity rather than the propane system. If for whatever reason you want to override that, there's a button right here. If you push it in, it's going to select gas, so that it's going to run off the propane rather than the electric. Not very often you would want to do that, maybe only if where you're plugged into maybe has a weak breaker. Any of the elements in the RV are going to be a little bit of a higher draw, so if that's something you want to shed a little bit of power, that's a good way to do it that way. Down here is your converter. This is going to be the electrical center for the RV. It's not uncommon in an RV for fuses to blow, so we do recommend you carry a few spare fuses with you. In this RV you have 10, 15, and 40 amp fuses, so again, not a bad idea to pick up a few spares of those just to have on hand in case. Also down here is going to be all of your 110 volt breakers. If you're plugged in and you find some things aren't working, this is a good place to check your water heater, air conditioner, microwave, that sort of thing. In the bathroom, one of the things I like to point out is on the toilets. Whenever you're using an RV with the holding tank, it's important to use only RV safe toilet paper and holding tank chemical. So after every time you dump the black holding tank, you need to put a new charge of the chemical in. It comes in powder, liquid, or tab forms, whatever you'd rather use. To recharge the holding tank, just drop one dose of the chemical into the toilet. You're going to depress the foot pedal about halfway to fill the bowl. Once it's full, go ahead and flush it down, and that's going to recharge that chemical. You do need a little bit of water to activate it, so that's why we like to fill the toilet bowl first. Also in here, you're going to find your GFCI, your ground fault circuit interrupter outlet. Similar to the outlet you'd find in a bathroom in your home, with the test and reset buttons. If you find that you are plugged in and you're not having power to your outlets, it's likely that this has tripped. If that's the case, just come into the bathroom, push your reset button here. You're going to notice the light goes off and you should have power flowing through your outlets again. Control your air conditioner and furnace. The thermostat is here. To turn it on, just push the power button. Sometimes you have to push and hold for a second. Well, there it goes. So there are a couple modes on here. You have high fan, which has come on there on the air conditioner. That's just a circulating fan rather than the air conditioner coming on. You have cool, which is going to kick your air conditioner in at the temperature you have selected. We have furnace, which again is going to kick your furnace in at the temperature you have selected. And then we have off again. Simple operation on that. Below that, we also have the carbon monoxide and propane detector. This detector will go off in 3 occasions. The first is going to be if there's a propane leak. If that happens, you'll probably also likely smell propane. A carbon monoxide leak, which you won't smell, but the detector will alert you of that. And the third time, and most common time this detector is going to go off, is if your battery on the RV is starting to get low. There is a noticeable difference between the alarms on the detector. The propane and carbon monoxide alerts are going to be a much more aggressive, fast beep, where the low power is going to be a slower beep with a couple seconds in between each beep. It is hardwired into the coach. There is no turning it off. If you notice it's going off because of a low battery, you'll need to recharge your battery to get it to stop. And that's pretty much it for the Northern Spirit. If you have any other questions about it, please feel free to contact us here at Trailblazer RV or check us out online at www.trailblazerrv.com. Thanks!